computer.
Oh,
Okay, we are recording and we have 12 people here right now. And Susan, I'm gonna watch the participants thing. So if anybody else tries to get in, I'll just let them in.
okay. You guys, we're just going to wait a little bit because there's several people who've signed up. We don't know how many are going to attend, but I just want to give them a chance. So
Yes.
There's only one I can't see.
Fraser.
Well, I can see her. She's a white dot. White dot with a white body.
Wait, go
Oh gosh.
Mary Ann, you have a very comfortable looking chair.
I know.
Yes.
I am very comfortable. I could recline back if I get too bored. If you see me reclining back, then you know there's a problem.
Are any other people trying to join, James?
No, I think that's everybody for now, but I'll just keep adding them as they pop in.
Okay.
I think we should be okay to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone. My name is Susan Rogers. I'm joined by Jamie Prohaska, who is our marketing manager, and Marianne O'Hearn, who is our artist. And my brother, Dave Alamo, is on my screen. He's down below. I feel like I'm at the Brady Bunch. So he's
Yes.
down below. So we really appreciate you guys joining us for, this is only our second virtual Zoom meeting for New Studio Training. So first and foremost, we want to say thank you for signing up. But also we want honest feedback of how you think this goes, because we're learning just like you guys are. And if we can improve on anything, we just want to know. So if there's something we don't cover, please email Jamie or myself. And Jamie, do we have a survey for this after?
We can create one. We can do like a Survey Monkey or something like that.
Yeah, just something.
You can whip something out.
I think what I'd like to do, because there are a good amount of you guys, when we do this in person, we actually hold it to just 8 people, usually about 3 to 4 studios. And that's because you get 2 days with Marianne, Jamie, and myself, mostly with Marianne. And the small group really leads to some really great conversations, and it's just better, easier training because everyone's coming at this at different levels. So what I'd actually like to start with is learning a little bit about you guys. I can see everyone's names pretty much, and I'll call your name and just ask you to say your name, your studio name if you're open yet, the state you're in, and what you hope to get out of this. So with further ado, Jamie, do you think I've covered everything pretty much?
Yeah, I think so. Also, I just wanted to mention quickly, there is a chat feature on this. So if you guys feel better like chatting, or if you think of a question as we're going through everything that you don't want to forget if someone else is talking, feel free to type it in the chat, and then Susan, I'll read them off to you.
Sounds good. Okay. Oh, and I'll kind of guide you on how we're doing before you guys introduce yourselves. So Marianne's we're gonna let you ask Marianne questions for up to an hour, depending on how many questions you guys have. And then after that, you can ask me any questions on pricing, inventory, merchandising, location, whatever questions you have that aren't product related. I let Marianne handle all of those.
Yeah, thanks.
She's the pro. So, okay, I'm gonna ask Anya, is that how you say your first name?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so
How are you?
can start. Good, how are you?
I'm great. My name's Anya Archer. I live north of Atlanta, and I'm looking at buying a friend of mine's studio. She recently relocated to Dallas, and her studio has been in business for 11 years. But of course, with COVID, it's taken a big hit this last year. So, and I've been a client there for 6 years, and I really love it. My daughter loves it. So, as a customer, I was there, but I'm trying to learn the business side of it more. And your training was excellent. I really loved it. And Marianne was really funny. She was
You
great.
should see her in person.
It makes me feel, I
can
feel
see
more
her
comfortable
now.
if I make people laugh, so that's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Anya. Okay, let's go to Kristen S.
All right, so my name is Kristen Sedlock, and I work at the Fort Huachuca Arts and Crafts Center. So we do a lot besides the ceramics. We're basically open for military members and their families. So our pricing structure is totally, when you said the little ones go for $18, I about choked. Because ours
Yeah.
do not go for $18.
Yeah, military base arts and crafts are a lot different, so I can
Oh,
help
yeah.
you with that.
Oh yeah. Well, I was like, okay, what are their cost of goods then? And so we don't have any really overhead, and we're a category B, so we get extra funding and things like that. But we're just here to serve the military members and not necessarily to make a huge amount of profit. We just sort of want to break even.
Yep,
So and
there's a
we do-
decent amount of you guys.
yeah. So, but I really enjoyed the training because I'm a new manager at the Arts and Crafts Center. And so it really went more into depth. The one thing that I wish that I could have seen was like the examples of the crawling and the shivering and things like that. I would have loved to seen like, just like, picked up a piece and said, okay, this is an example of, and then whatever it was, because I've had some of those things happen. And I think it was the crawling has happened, but I just wish the example was there. But overall, I thought the training was great.
Awesome. That's really good feedback too. I can add that. I'll definitely add that in the video. Like I can have an image of it come up, and that's really good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kristen,
In-
what state are you located in, Kristen?
So, I'm in Arizona.
Arizona,
and
okay.
We're on Fort Huachuca, which is southern Arizona.
Okay.
Gotcha. If anyone though does have problems, quality problems or questions, we are here for you all the time. That's what we're here for. So call us. Typically we'll ask you to take a picture of a quality problem. If I or my customer service team can't answer it, we get the pro involved. That's when we get Mary Ann involved. So
You say all the time, like you mean midnight?
yeah. No, I know you're sleeping then.
Good.
Okay, so let's go to Sutton Carpenter.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name's Sutton Carpenter. I am from Hernando, Mississippi. It's right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. My studio's called Paint With Me, LLC. We opened February 2020, so right before COVID hit. But we've done good. I'm hoping to get this. I'm a first-time business owner, so I have a lot of learning to do. I didn't really have a structure as far as how to price things. I've kind of just winged it. So I'm hoping to get some more training on that, on how to price everything the right way. I enjoyed the training video. I got a lot of good information from it. I think that's it.
Perfect. That's great. So we'll definitely be covering pricing. Okay, Linda K. Spires.
My name is Linda K. Spires, and I live in Florence, South Carolina, in Darlington County. And I'm a retired nurse of 2 years, so I missed COVID. I've been praying for the other ones. Oh, it's been in the midst of it. We had gone to the mountains and had taken a college course. I had taken a college course in ceramics and had done some pottery and loved it. Loved the creativity. I love to paint. I do canvas art, a lot of other things too. And so anyway, I decided when I retired, I wanted to do something. So we owned a corner piece of property at a traffic light on an off-road out of Florence. And I decided to open up a ceramic shop. So I have 2 kilns. I have a small one and a large one. I have a potter's wheel. I order clay. I used mainly Cone 06 for my firings and also with my glazes and my clay. And I love the new one that bends, that's real sturdy. I think I ordered from y'all.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's wonderful. But I also bought thermometers to go into the kiln through the peepholes, and that when it gets up to 1825, I think it is, and I turn it off because I have old kilns, and so that's really worked and really helped. But anyway, my biggest concern is the pricing as well. How to make it, you know, I want to make a profit and stay open. It's been really slow with COVID, but I have some very good regulars come in all the time. But it's very small, but I use it as a place for people to come and escape. You know, just sort of come and escape and enjoy that quiet time. I put music on and stuff. And anyway, it's just been a joy. And your videos, everything that you did was just very, very good. But I do need help on the pricing, like the percentage. So anyway, that would help us a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be very easy. I'll be able to tell you the 2 different variables and ways that you can price and choose. And then after this, if you guys still have questions, you know, we can have one-on-one Zoom meetings. So,
Great.
Okay, so I can just see Julie, and there's 2 of you.
2 Julies.
Hi, my name is Julie Pitts, and I am in Cumberland, Kentucky, in a very rural area in the mountains. The name of our shop, it's actually a stained glass studio called Willing Hearts, and we're getting ready to add in ceramics. And I think, as I shared with you, Susan, I know nothing about ceramics. But we've been open with our stained glass for about 5 years now, and it's been doing very well. And we pretty much, our focus is with low income, no income, disabled, and retired. Those are our qualifying categories for our nonprofit status. But my counterpart here, Nancy, that you can't see very well.
Oh, I can see her. No, she's
there.
There we go. Yeah. She's going to be in charge of ceramics, but really and truthfully, we need it all.
Yeah.
The pricing is important to us. The videos were great. Some of the best information we've been able to acquire thus far in our searches. So we definitely appreciate all of that. But definitely pricing and
just setting it up and getting it going.
Yeah. And I was especially interested in the inventory stuff too. I had to play, repeat, take notes. So I thought that was very helpful.
Good. Okay.
I'm going to have to watch this video.
You were in 3 of them.
It's great. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch that.
Here's the thing about Marianne. She doesn't like to be on video. So every time I have, like, I'm taping her,
I hate it.
she's like, I don't want to see it. Just do what you're going to do and put
Just
it
do
out.
it. I don't want to look.
Yeah.
Well, you were great.
Thank you.
Thumbs up.
Okay, so now it's Akiko from California. Yay!
Hi.
Did I say your name right too?
Yes, you did.
Just so everyone knows, poor Akiko has she was going to open right before the pandemic hit, and she finally, I think, have you officially opened?
Not yet.
I know we just shipped you stuff, but
yes.
Oh,
yes.
It's so nice to put a face to a
I know. Well, I knew how you guys look, but because this is actually my second time watching a training video, because like you said that we are supposed to, but actually I work for a shoe company, like a national brand shoe company, as a shoe designer for 21 years.
Wow.
And I was kind of getting sick of, because I was like, becoming more like a conscious. And every season I've been seeing all the waste we are creating. I was creating. So I was hating my job every day. And then this was actually my husband's idea to buy the franchise. And I'm like, first, by the way, I bought the Color Me Mine franchise. So it's a brand new studio. So then first I was not sure, I love art, of course, I design art, but I was never into ceramics. So, but anyway, I started painting after, because, I had a desk, but then my studio was not open. So I've been painting a lot, but I never fired my piece I used to take it to other people to fire it. So I'm so afraid of killing right now. And then tilting and then messing up with customers' pieces. That's what I'm afraid of. So I'm hoping I'm gonna learn a lot from this training.
You know, one of the things you could do is talk to Sean at corporate and see if there's any other coloring minds you can shadow.
Oh yeah. I actually did that like a year ago.
Yep.
So I did that too, but I'm just like afraid of like a run. I just got the my kiln, but it's not really running yet. So I'm gonna practice like more than a couple times before I'm gonna fire a custom piece. But then I'm just like afraid of that. Like I'm so afraid of it.
A kiln is nothing more than a big oven. That's all it is. It's so, and you probably got a scut. It is very easy to run.
Okay.
You won't blow anything up. People ask me sometimes. They always say, if I put this in, can it like, is it going to blow up or something? There isn't anything you can blow up. The worst that it can do is melt or something, but that's, doesn't really blow up. So don't worry about that.
Akiko, what area of California are you in?
I live in Orange County, California, but our studio is going to be in Covina, which is LA County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She was all excited, Dave, because she's going to be able to drive and pick up product if she needs to, because she's within an hour of the warehouse out there.
Yeah, it's on the way to the studio from my house. So
I have a question for you though. Do you have a lot of shoes?
Right.
I used to.
Yeah, I bet.
So for 21 years, and I was a designer, so I get lots of samples, and I was a sample size.
Oh,
so
nice.
I still have a lot, but I got rid of most of them.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, thank you, Akiko. Okay, Sherry, how about you?
Hi. My name is Sherry, and my studio is Baker's Bisque & More. I'm in Troy, Missouri. And I retired in March of 2019. I had opened the studio in October prior to that. And then so I ran that while I was still working, and then retired in March, right when COVID hit. So same scenario as a lot of people. But as long as I can pay the bills and keep afloat, then that's my goal. I love what I'm doing. It's not work to me. This is a passion, and it's a place for families to come to. The videos were great, just like everybody else, pricing and all that. My other concern is because of COVID, not quite knowing how to set up hours. I really don't like changing my hours all the time, but like last week, I sat and, not very many people coming in. I try to post on Facebook all the time to draw attention. And I offer take-home kits, offer open studio time. So any help along those lines would be appreciated. I'll just leave it
Sounds good.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
And Rianne.
Can you hear? Okay,
I can, yes.
My name is Ryan. I am actually from Crafty Fox Studio. I moved away, about an hour away, so I'm looking to perhaps open my own studio up north where I live at.
Nice.
Good. Yes, nice to meet you.
You as well. And I was there with Kristen with the new studio, I guess 3 years ago now, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. I was like, you look familiar.
I thought you looked familiar.
And your name was familiar, but I apologize that I butchered it. So sorry, Ryan.
That's okay. No. I was the one that was, awestruck at Marianne because that was my position I was the sample painter at Crafty Fox. So I just stood there like this, and she's probably like, what is wrong with this woman?
No, that's the fun part, the painting.
Well, good. Well, thank you.
Susan,
And then we have Fraser's down below. You're going to have to unmute yourself, though.
she actually wrote it in the chat, so I was going to read that to you.
Perfect.
He said, "Hi, my name is Betsy Frazier. I am in Iowa, and my studio is Glaze the Galaxy. I've been open for a few months, so I wanted to do the training to see what I'm doing right and what I can improve on." Smiley face.
Sounds good. Okay, so that covers everyone that is in the meeting. So let's just start it up. We're going to give, as much time to Marianne, up to an hour. So any questions you have that has to do with product, firing, kilns, etc., fire away.
Yep.
Fire away. I like that, Susan.
I know. No pun intended.
Yeah.
I really didn't mean to say it, actually.
I must have answered all those questions in the videos, huh?
I know, you guys don't be shy. Someone's got to start.
I'll start.
Okay.
On glazes, do you have a preference on like fun strokes or stroke and coat? And
of course.
What makes your choice? Yeah.
Well, because I work for Gare, but so I only use fun strokes, but we have tested the competitors' products, and I can honestly say, and I'm being honest here, even if I wasn't working for Gare, I would use the fun strokes. I think the only biggest differences are, without putting down the other companies, because they do great and they have great products. But I know we have very vibrant colors, and I know the only thing I have heard, that has been said, like if we were at a convention or we had a Gare Fest event, when I would be saying to put, so many coats on something, like 4 coats, people would say, "Oh, we can't do that." They were using a competitor's, I don't remember which one. And I guess they have a harder time putting it on thick without having it crawl. I haven't used them enough to experience that. I'm just going by what other people have said. They can't put it on very heavy, because if they put it on thick, you shouldn't be putting it on too thick anyway, but you can go pretty thick with ours without it crawling before it will crawl. So sometimes I do a lot of techniques with those Fun Riders, in the Fun Rider bottle, and those go on a little heavy, but I've never had a problem with it. So when they told me that, I understood they maybe can't do that technique with that product, but and I think our colors are more vibrant. And the other thing, the biggest difference between the colors is both of theirs, Stroke and Coat and Concepts, both have a almost like they almost feel thick when you're painting. And being an artist, I like to do nice thin lines. And ours is very opaque, but yet it's thin. You can, it flows nicely, and that's creamy. What I like about it. Where theirs is a little more gel-like or something. But the best thing I could say is, try them all, see what you like the best. That what I always say to people. You do your own comparisons, and then I think you'll pick ours, but who knows?
What was that thing you were telling me with the light over dark? Where it does?
Oh, and that's the other thing. Yeah, I think ours does well light over dark. Like if you have black, you can take white and go over it. Now, granted, you can't just, take a brush and use the white and do 1 or 2 coats. You'd have to put several coats, or you can put 1 coat with a Fun Rider. The Fun Riders are great because it's only that 1 coat, but they cover very nicely light over dark, which I have done comparisons with those. And ours definitely does the best light over dark.
The other thing is our bottles fully drain out. And there's 2 benefits of that. One, obviously you're saving money because every drip comes out of the bottle. And fun fact, we can't figure out if it's the bottle or our paint that's allowing that, but we'll take it because customers love it. But also when you're doing inventory, it's very easy to see what colors you have to reorder. So instead,
it goes down. Yeah,
it goes down, and then you can
see.
So it's easy, just instead of with the competitors, you actually have to go and lift each bottle and determine, how much is left to reorder. So
yeah, because it stays on the sides. Theirs sticks to the side. So even if it's almost empty, you won't know it because it sticks to the side unless you lift it up, where ours kind of empty, so you know right where your paint is, you know.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would bring bringing in your line all new and changing out what they currently have, the store that I'd be looking at buying. In the Fun Strokes, how many colors do you recommend? Do you recommend all the colors, or is there some that you should definitely have and others you can eliminate?
Okay, don't tell my brother I'm going to say this, but
okay, I won't tell him.
It's funny. I started with new studio packages, and I started with 50 colors for, gosh, probably 10 years. And then people started saying, I wish I had more. So we have 75 in the line. I now have the startup package at 60. But really, it depends on your demographics and what you're trying to do. So like Kristen, who's in a military town and probably is going to have lower volume and has probably 10 different crafts, I would probably start her with 30.
Right.
But, Anya, I believe you're in Georgia, north of Georgia?
Yeah, north of Atlanta.
North of Atlanta?
Yeah.
That's a really good market. I would say start with 60.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And there's a swap out program for that. So anyone who's buying an existing studio and wants to convert to our colors, call me and I can go through that. Unless, like, show of hands. So Anya, it sounds like you're interested. Is there anyone else who's interested in switching? Okay, I'll kind of go through it a little quick, and I can follow up with Anya and Sherry on converting after as well. But our swap out is, we will swap out up to 200 bottles, size for size, that are half full or more. So say the store you're purchasing carries pints, and they have 150 bottles that fit that criteria. We will swap out 150 at no charge. Any other product you want to buy over that, you get a one-time stock-up price. Then what we do is we ask the paint to be shipped on a $500 BISC order, because we're basically giving you over $1,000 of free paint, and we've got to compensate for the freight. So on that shipment with the paint and the BISC, we put empty cardboard boxes. So when you get those, you pack up the competitive paint and you measure it and try and weigh it, as you can estimate that, and we'll issue a call tag and have it picked up.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. The bonus is if you could take a picture. We love getting pictures of new setups, because it's everyone always asks for, what's the most common way to set up a paint bar? So we want to create a library.
Cool.
Perfect.
I can also send an email out to everybody that was registered for this with the color swap information afterwards. Yeah.
Good.
Now, I do have a question about because right now we currently do use the Stroke and Coat, and it does not come out of the bottle that easy, which I agree with.
Told you.
But those two, you can mix the colors, and so can we mix the Gear paints?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. 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 They mix well. So you can do anything like that. And, sometimes they advertise their colors as, you can skip the dip, meaning you can put the color on, and you don't have to clear glaze it. I mean, we always suggest clear glazing because kids are going to come into the studio. They're not going to get every spot, or they're going to only do one coat. So it's just easier to just clear glaze them, because then they have a beautiful glossy piece, and they're not going to notice if there's some white spots, or if it's thinly coated. It's just going to be beautiful. The whole thing will be glossy. So we could also say skip the dip, but we don't. But ours does the same thing. If you put, theirs or ours, if you'd have to put on about 4 coats. But if you put on 4 coats of the Fun Strokes and you covered every spot, you wouldn't have to clear glaze it either. The clear glaze just makes it glossier. It just, it's just, that's the procedure we use, because like I said, you're going to get people that aren't going to put on the right amount of coverage and stuff like that.
So currently we are painting our clear glaze on. Would you recommend the dip? I know it is.
Yes.
tedious.
Now, if you paint are you painting, when you brush on the clear glaze, are you buying brush on clear glaze or are you brushing it on with the dipping? Okay. Even if you wanted to brush on the glaze, I would use the dipping glaze, okay? Because it's so much easier. Because you only need really one coat and you kind of just, you know, it's kind of watery, a lot more watery than the brush on glaze is thick. And people tend to get it on too heavy. So once you know how to dip, God, the dipping is so much easier. So, and we have a great dipping glaze. I mean, it's just, it's very forgiving. It's easy to use. If you keep it at the right viscosity, it comes out beautiful. So.
And we have two different ones, but we recommend the Dazzle Dip.
Dazzle Dip, yes.
Dazzle Dip.
I want to make a suggestion if nobody's tried it, is their glass green. That's my favorite color for Christmas trees.
Yes.
Glass green. I mean, I've had people just say that is just beautiful. And so the glass green is just gorgeous on trees. That's my favorite of the greens for Christmas.
It is. It's very it's a transparent type of glaze, like semi-transparent. So when it goes on, it just falls in the crevices of the trees. It's not really good on plain pieces, but on a texture like that, it's really nice. And some people will say, will look at the tree and they say, well, that's, you know, the tree is, you know, they'll think that there's black underneath there, and it's not. It's just does what it does with 3 coats. It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that one's good glaze. Yeah.
One of the things to remember with the glass green, I believe Marianne covered this in the video, but you want to use no fired snow if you want to snow. Don't use fired snow because the fired snow will turn blue with that product.
It bleeds up into the green bleeds up. That green bleeds up into the snow after you fire it. And then you're like, now what do? You got green snow. You don't want that. So it's fixable because you could take the no fire snow and put it over it, but you're better off to just put the no fire snow on afterwards. And it's great because it's an upsell, you know, because you can sell I think we have the no fire snow in like a 4-ounce jar, and that can be a 2-ounce jar. Sorry. Is it a 2-ounce jar?
I think it's 2.
Okay. Yeah. The little round ones, those are 2?
Yeah.
Why did I think there were 4? Okay. So anyway, you can take that and you can sell it as, you know, to take home. And then, you know, so when it comes out of the kiln, you can upsell that. Oh, you can put the snow on after. They can take their time and do it at home. It just hardens. And once it's dry, it's good, you know? So.
Okay, what other questions, you guys? Don't be shy.
Okay, I have another one.
Okay.
Either maybe you guys could suggest, or other studio owners. There's a lot of pottery from the current company that is in this store that it's been sitting a long time. And so how do you recommend, like, because I love all the bisque pieces you offer. There's so many neat ones. How do I do a sale and try to turn over those pieces that have been there for a while? Do I just, you know, I mean, to bring in yours, because I kind of want to create, you know, a whole new look with your line versus keeping the other one that's been there so long. Any suggestions?
You could try a sale. You know, I don't know people's thoughts on this, but if you donate it, I think you can do it as a write-off. So if you donated it to a school, that might be a way to reduce
a great idea.
Your revenues, and you're paying less taxes.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
And then you feel good about it. You can do goodwill. What I would do is I would divvy it up and spread it amongst the schools, because then maybe you can get into the PTOs or after school programs, because now they're kind of indebted to you in a way.
Right.
Also senior centers. Senior centers and assisted living is like that nugget of activity that they do ceramics probably at a minimum twice a month.
Yeah.
And so that's a growing little
well, I know the owner used to go into them a lot, you know, previous to COVID, obviously prior to COVID, but now it's been shut down. But once that reopens, yeah, that's a great market. But I could even give it to them. You're right. So they could have things to do. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love all those ideas. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. You guys are a quiet bunch. Come on.
Everybody said they had kiln questions. I'm dying to hear the kiln questions.
For the pottery glazes, how many of those do you recommend that we carry?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, if
because I think you have about 26 pottery glazes.
I'd at least do 12. I'd have to look it again, and I would consult with Marianne. I haven't done that in a bit to get like a package, but I would say 12 to 16 at a minimum. And then with that, you would want to bring in like the glass green, the black and white surface coat. What am I missing, Marianne?
You could probably the Magic Flow.
Oh yeah, the Magic Flow.
Definitely. If you're going to use pottery glazes, you should have the Magic Flow. There's a lot you can do with even 12 to 15 colors. There's a lot you can do, like, you know, because you can layer them, you know, you can use the Magic Flow. You know, we have a lot of stuff on the website, I'm sure, that has a lot of different techniques and stuff. So, yeah, the pottery glazes, they're my favorite. So
I like them because I'm not an artist, and it yields really cool results. So,
and you don't clear glaze those. You don't glaze those. I know some people do it anyway, but if it accidentally happens, it's not a big deal. It'll just might change color or something. But the only problem is, you know, they don't look like the color that's in the jar. That's the bottle is different than what's in, but the glass green too. Everybody thinks they're going to have a red tree, but it's really not. It's green. It's Fires green. So that's the only difference. So you have to have samples. You have to have some kind of a tile or sample to definitely know that this is what it looks like and that's the color. And even on your shelves, just to keep it from confusion, what I did was I put A, B, C, D. I didn't even go by numbers because it keeps them from, you know, like all the Fun Strokes have numbers. Then you got pottery glaze with the numbers. So it's nice to just keep them completely separate and put A, B, C, D on the bottles and with a big marker. Then they just know A goes on top of B, you know. It's just so much simpler than having the numbers and having them get confused, because they will put a pottery glaze color on one little piece of a figurine, and then they'll go get a Fun Stroke and put it on another piece of the same figurine. So, you know, nice to keep them separate. So.
Yeah, and we just did charts not too long ago with our pottery glaze colors where we showed, like, with 8 different pottery glazes, you can get multiple different color combinations and looks. So you can send those out too as a follow-up email and include those on there, because it's nice because studios have been printing them out and hanging them up so you can see all the different looks you can get with one pottery glaze. Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
One of the things that's important if you carry the pottery glazes, which I highly suggest, is you want to separate them from your main color, whether it's Fun Strokes, Concepts, or Stroke and Coats. So what a lot of studios will do is they'll get some type of hutch or what do you call that? Like dresser, if you will, where it has like the 5 shelves. And if you take the first shelf or 2, depending on how many colors you have, you would put the bottles in there in order, right? And then we give you little 1-inch tiles. You could put that on the face right above, like say, here's the bottle. You'll put the little square on the face of the, yes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
People know the color. Yeah.
There's one other thing with that. So that's Fun Strokes. Now with the pottery glazes, because they're all brown and it's not what you see is what you get in the bottle, what people have done is we have a little bowl. It's our soy bowl. It's item number 2003, I believe. And you can use any little bowl, but people will paint like 3 to 4 of those in a color. So say you have pottery peacock. You paint 4 bowls and then you put those in front of the jars. So you have the jars and then you stack up the bowls, because as a customer wants to use that paint, they put it in that bowl and take it to the table. So they know this color is in this bowl.
Yeah.
So when they're painting, especially if they're doing layering and you have 3 different brown bottles floating around, you're not going to remember what's what. So instead of putting it on like a paper plate or in a little paint palette, it's easier to do it in the bowls. That was a trick we got from a studio.
Yeah. One thing that I did was I did a large flat round piece like a plate, and then I would do one stroke, and then I would do another stroke, and it would be about this long, and part of it was a single stroke of color, the second part was a double stroke of color, and then the third one was the third stroke of color, so they could see if they wanted it just light, medium, or the full color. And I baked that. Dish cracked because I had a little bubble in it. And but anyway, I glued it together and kept it together, and then I used a magic marker like a pen, Sharpie, and I put the name of the paint so that they can see when they look at it if you only want to do one stroke or one coat or two coats or three coats, and that's been real helpful to them too.
That's good with the fun strokes, but you can't do that with the pottery glazes, only because pottery glazes have to have 3 coats no matter what, at least.
Okay.
You know, because the one coat on a pottery glaze doesn't really work out.
Okay.
You know, so, but the fun strokes, that's a great idea. That's what a lot of people do, yeah. Do the 1, 2, and 3 coat.
Because Linda, remember the pottery glazes are not clear glaze, so you need that 3 coat to seal the piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tricky. That's something that a lot of people, you know, until they get used to it and bring the product line in, they tend to forget. Very good questions.
Yeah.
Now, all of your pottery glazes are food safe?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because from the other companies, we had like every line, and I'm like, you guys are killing me. We have way too much glaze. I'm like, we got to shorten it down because I have too much. So, like, you know, we had the sparkles and the glitter, and I was like, oh, we're getting rid of that first.
Yeah.
Because it got everywhere.
What
Then
I would do is
keep glaze it.
Right. Keep one bottle, like one style of glitter, and bring it in 2 ounce and sell it. So it's not in your facility, so they can take it home and paint it. Let the homes get messy.
I hate glitter.
Make the mess over there.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's a good idea.
I have a question. I did a with metallic paints, and I did a piece that I put the paint on it, and when I opened the kiln, it had dripped off of it and got onto my shelf. I'm not sure why.
What do you mean by metallic paints?
Was it?
It's
So it was a fired, like the pewter or the bronze?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember those that we had, Marianne? It was like 7216, 7217.
Yeah, I mean, what you have now is not our brand, because I know we don't have any metallic paints, but I don't know why it would drip off. It shouldn't, but you'd have to ask that company. Maybe that's what they were made to. I don't know what they were. I can't see why it would drip off unless you put too much. I'm not sure what the metallic paints do. They're metallic paints that get fired, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure because we don't sell those, so I'm not really sure why they would do that. No paint, no glaze should do that. So
okay.
Did you have any other crystals or anything on there that would make it flow?
No, it was just that in itself. You know, no other paint was on it.
And it was an 06. Was it a cone 06, like a firing? The firing? Yeah. Then I don't know what would make it do that unless it was too hot of a firing or something. You know,
either too hot or too thick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it maybe just too thick.
Could have been, yeah.
I had that issue with a vertical piece, and it was on too thick, and it did run.
Okay.
Yeah. With what glaze?
Mako.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. It's hard to speak for the other glazes because I'm not sure why they would do that. They shouldn't. They really shouldn't. It should never drip off unless you have like magic flow and you take it all the way to the bottom on top of the other. even then, it usually doesn't drip off into your shelf. It usually just causes big, like nubs on the bottom of the mug or something. So I've never seen it just drip off onto the shelf. That's weird to me, but so.
I think with Mako, it's because their crystals are so big in there sometimes. The little glass piece.
Oh, crystals will.
They have it.
Yeah.
They might have popped off or something. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
During Christmas time, I sold a bunch of the ceramic trees that you put the bulbs in. And I know whenever you dip it, if they're doing, if we're putting clear glaze on it, I know to clean it out, the holes, so that the bulbs can go in. Do you have any advice on if one is missed, how to, once it's fired, how to get that glass clear?
Yeah. If you block up the hole, I mean, the easiest thing to use to clean up the holes is a pipe cleaner. Those work nice too.
Yes.
To, just shove that in there. But if you don't close, I mean, if they do close up, you can use a drill. But I can just tell you it's a nightmare. I mean, it's glass. It fires to a real hard glass. So it's really hard to get through to it because you're going through glass. It's really hard. And if it's the thicker it is, the harder it is to get through it. You can drill through it, but you have to have a bit on your drill that's for glass. Like, if you get to Home Depot or something, ask them, they'll tell you which one. Sometimes they look like a little arrow. And that will get one of those that goes onto your drill, not a regular drill bit, and it will usually go through the glass.
Without affecting the other parts of it?
Yeah, you're gonna go very slow, and it helps to add a little water.
Okay.
So if you have a little bit of water in it with it too, when you're drilling, it just will help it to not, there's no guarantees.
Right.
So you just hope you can do it. I've done it before, so.
Thank you.
That's why people like the glass green, is you don't have to clear glaze it. So and sometimes, like this season, we had, I don't know, 4 or so customers call and, they'd say, oh, why does this not look great? And their customer put too little on. So all you have to do if they put too little on is, put the pipe cleaners back in and put another coat on and refire it, and you're good.
Yeah.
It just makes it so much easier. So we have a lot of people, trees have been hot for about 4 years now. So people are really loving the glass green, but then we had these vibrant pottery glazes, and they were doing them in those, and some of them were just stunning. So it doesn't just have to be green. It could be different colors too.
We did a lot of purple trees. We did a field trip, and it was a spotlight trip, and so it was a smaller group, but they wanted to paint the trees, and they did everything but green, and they just turned out just awesome, except for the couple that didn't. I didn't put the pipe cleaners in them. When I glazed them, when I brought them back to my studio, I took a shish kebab, one of those things, and went in there and got them out, and I missed a couple of them.
Now, when you say put the pipe cleaners in it, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Okay, so what I was doing before is I was getting, like I said, a shish kebab stick.
Yeah.
And there cleaning it out. I didn't even think about a pipe cleaner. So when you said that pipe cleaners are easy to use, go ahead.
Yeah, I just mean like the pipe cleaner. I just mean you cover the whole tree. Then you clean them out after. Sometimes when people are saying put the pipe cleaners in it,
no, just have them all sticking it. No.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because you never know what people do. Yeah. It's just easy to clean them out after. People are like, well, I had the pipe cleaners in there, and I'm like, I'm not sure if they're trying to paint it with the pipe cleaners in there. And I'm like,
I think some studios do that though.
Really? Yeah, I don't know. That would be a lot of work to me to try to go
and a lot
around
of wasted
and
pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
And one thing that we did with our trees, I would inspect them ahead of time, because some of them aren't all the way open for the lights to go in.
Yeah,
and I have a real small little miniature. It has screwdrivers and stuff in it, and a little itty bitty hammer that's only about this long. tap hammer, and I've actually cleaned off some things with it and made it so, because like maybe one of them, the holes was open, but a piece that came out of it was underneath inside the tree. But it chips off real easy before you glaze them. So I recommend you inspect your trees and the holes ahead of time. And it just makes it a whole lot easier.
We have like 10 more minutes for Marianne questions before we switch over to Susan.
Akiko, you got to have some kiln questions for us. Come on, hit us up.
Somebody had, I think it might have been Kristen. Did you have some questions about crawling and shivering and things like that?
Yes. So on the video, I think it would have been helpful to have like her hold up something that had shivering, hold up something that had the crawling.
I didn't know if you had specific questions that might be helpful too, because it's like you want to see it, but.
Yes. So I have a question. So when I started at the Arts and Crafts Center, you know, we have the policy that everybody washes their hands when they come in to get the extra oils off. But like when I go out to like a Color Me Mine up in Phoenix, they never have you wash your hands. How do they just not?
It's unusual that something's gonna go wrong, but you know, there are people that just sit there and while they're painting, they're eating chips, greasy chips, and you know, but they don't know why it's happening. Something will go wrong and they'll call us and say, this happened or that happened, and we're like, why did the glaze repel or something? And it's usually, it could be because of that, but you know, that's by washing the hands, you're just ruling that scenario out, you know. But I mean, you can't stop it all either. But what I wanted to say about the difference between the crawling and the shivering. Now, the shivering is not fixable. You can't just like put some more color up and put it back in. It's just not fixable. Where the crawling, you can tell the difference because shivering just falls off like glass, right? You can just almost pick it off. Where crawling, it just crawls back from the bisque. From the bisque. So but around where you see the white spot, around it, it's usually a tight edge. It's usually right tight up against the bisque. You can't pick it off or anything else. It just kind of crawled back. So something repelled it in that spot. And it's usually fixable. You can usually just dab some more paint on there and throw it back in the kiln, and it's usually fixable.
Yeah,
So
I usually
those are
dribble.
things to keep in mind.
I usually dribble a little bit of the excess away and then repaint that area.
Or sand it.
Yeah. So you just, you could just, it's like I said, it's just usually fixable, the crawling at least, you know.
Hey, Miriam, we got a question that came in from Ryan. Oh, Susan just answered it.
I did.
Okay.
What kiln do you most recommend? Let's see if Marianne's answer matches Susan's.
Scott, all the way. I mean, I like the Paragon too. It has features that I like about it, like, you know, the covers on springs. So when you lift the cover up, it springs up, which is nice because the covers can be very heavy. And I'm short, so see how I said that? I'm short. I'm short. I try to put the R in there because I know if I say shot, you're gonna think we're going for the COVID shot. So no, shot. But I'm short, and I can't reach the kiln. So this is another tip to tell all you guys: when you get your kiln in, if it doesn't come with the stands, sometimes even if it does, because you want like we put ours on those, you know, those big white bricks, like they're
Cinder
really
blocks.
thick. Yeah, that's what they're called, Dave. See, I'm just not to that Home Depot type of thing. But you take the cinder blocks and you put them so that they stick out a little, so you can stand on them, because that's what I do to get into the bottom of the kiln. So, but the Paragon has that spring-loaded covers, you know, so that's nice to have. I don't know that Scott has though, because I don't know if they have those, but they might now. I don't know, but the Scott is very user friendly, easy to use, you know. I've never had a problem. They just fire nice, and the customer service there is really nice. You can call them, they'll talk to you, they'll talk you through. I've fixed a lot of kilns myself when I had a studio quite a few years back, and you could just fix it. Sorry, I went out. You could fix the kiln yourself, and they'll walk you through it, so.
Marianne, we should put that in the next training video, your cinder block step stool technique. Yeah.
I have a question. On the pieces, when I take them out of the kiln and put them on the I put them on stilts. Sometimes it leaves, I have to sand them because of the stilting. Sometimes it's really rough and sometimes it's not. I don't know what the difference is, but sometimes some little stilts leave, pretty sharp little edges, and then I have little marks, and I feel bad that it leaves the little imprints.
I mean, the stilt marks are unavoidable for the most part. You can't get away from it, but you can use a Dremel tool. That's going to flatten them out instead of just sandpaper or something like that. If you use a little Dremel tool, it takes it off a little easier. And make sure that your paint isn't too thick. If you paint, the thicker your glaze is on the bottom there, the more the stilt marks are going to, make bigger stilt marks. And also, the stilt marks, make sure your stilts are clean. Like if you have older, you guys might all have newer stilts, but if you have older stilts, the glazes stick on those little points, and you want to make sure, that's cleaned off with either sandpaper or get a tool that you can, pop off any glaze that's on there. I'm sure they even have something like a little sharpener, a nail file, one of those metal nail files that you can maybe file some glaze off of it and sharpen it up a little. But, you don't want your stilts to get full of glaze, because when they do, the next piece you're going to put it on, it's going to make the stilt mark show up more, So keep that in mind.
And Marianne, we have another question from Akiko. She says, so what do I do if there are some areas that are not absorbing underglaze? Can I fix it?
Say that again. If what?
If there are some areas on your piece that are not absorbing the underglaze, what can you do to fix it?
Sounds like a hard spot, maybe?
It sounds like a hard spot. The only way you could fix that is probably just, you really got to be patient with it. If you get a hard spot that you can't put the glaze on and it just keeps pulling off, for one thing, you've got to put a coat on and let it dry really good. Because the minute you try to put the next coat on, if it's still wet, it'll just pull that first coat off, and you'll just keep getting the hard spots. So you really got to kind of almost dab the paint on, like flow it on, like do it like so that the brush is really soft, and you're just kind of putting a layer on and let it dry. And that's all you can do. When it's good and dry, you might be able to put another light coat on, and that's it. But the more you keep just trying to do it while it's wet, the more it'll just keep coming off,
Akiko, have you experienced that now? Like as you're painting your samples?
Yeah, I had but I don't think you can see it, but I was painting this. And it was like two spots, it just, the paint doesn't set. It just keep getting.
On those spots, yeah, that's what it is. It's a hard spot. When they pour the mold, like when they pour clay into the mold, the first drop that hits that mold, like if they're not pouring it correctly, like you're supposed to, anyway, when you pour a mold, you're supposed to pour it over like a band or something, so it goes in like this. But when they just strip it in there, if it hits this certain spot, that can create, among other reasons, but that can create a hard spot right away in that one spot. And so it just, for some reason, you can't cover it, but that's what you have to do. You just got to kind of be patient with it, go over it very lightly, put it on, it's got to go on a little bit heavy, and just let it dry,
I have one more question. I actually have a lot, but then I want to ask one more. Is there any way you can fix after you fire the piece? Because I heard somebody saying that you can paint over it
Yeah.
and fire it again? Is it
Yes,
true?
you can paint and fire. You can, try to touch it up and fire it again. Yeah. And you should be able to go over it. But again, you might have to put one kind of heavy coat on rather than try to, brush a couple of coats, because especially if it's fired, it's just going to keep wiping off. So you just want to put one heavy coat on. You don't have to re-clear glaze it either. You shouldn't have to, because the clear glaze is just going to fire into that. It should be fine.
Okay, so what if you wanted to take something off after firing?
Oh.
No?
It depends what it is. I mean, if it's just you can't just kind of remove a color or anything like that. But if it's just like a little, you get those little glass. You mean,
Yeah.
What do you mean by on?
Because I made something like I used like stencil thing.
Yeah.
And it was like a black lettering. So I took it off, and then I guess I didn't clean enough. There's like some dust. And then
Yeah.
I don't dip glaze right now because I'm doing at home. So I did the brush glazing, and then when I did that, I saw all the like a black powder thing was like all over the place, and I knew I didn't clean up. And then I tried to take it out before firing, and but then of course I didn't take everything off, right? So after the firing, it was like a kind of black spots all over it.
Yeah. Usually, unfortunately, you can't fix that, but the only thing you could do is repaint it with a different color or something. That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more question on the pyrometric cones. How often do you recommend that we use those? I have both of mine are Scott kilns. And so will it tell you if one of the heating elements is out, or should I be using those cones like once a month? We have a whole cabinet because we have a really old kiln that I guess we used to use them in, of these cones that I never use.
Do you have an electric? Oh,
yes.
Sorry.
Yep,
Do you have a regular digital kiln, right? Or do you have an old, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the rule of thumb is, some people say put them in every firing. I don't think most people do that. I didn't do that because you never know what's happening unless you had that in there. So, but I used to try to do it about once a week, or if I feel like you're doing these pieces and then you're pulling them out and you're having any kind of issues, like this piece ain't firing, but this piece that was over here at the top is firing beautiful. Then there might be a coil out, because the coils, it isn't all one coil in the kiln. There's several coils. So you would know, like if you put one in the bottom, in the middle, and then the top of the kiln, and you do this about once a week, at least it checks your kiln and says, oh yeah, my kiln's firing good. Or like I said, you can check it only when you have a problem, but then you'd have to fire it again to see what the problem was. Like, is one, is a coil out? Because if the bottom cone, if the top two cones, the top and the middle, the cones bends over nicely, and then the one on the bottom doesn't bend over at all, then you probably know that you probably have a coil out on the bottom. So it kind of tells you things, you need to know what's firing hotter in which area.
And one thing I want to point out, especially for new studio owners, is the thing that measures the temperature in a kiln is called a thermocouple. And the thermocouple can wear out over time. And so I believe Scott and Paragon recommend, don't quote me exactly on the number, I would look up in the manual. It's something like 300 firings they recommend that you change out the thermocouple, because it can start to misread the temperature. And so not just the coils, which Marianne's exactly right, but the thermocouple is something you might even want to have an extra thermocouple at your place in case one starts to malfunction.
And they're easy to replace. I've replaced a lot of thermocouples. Most people do it themselves. You can hire an electrician, but if you unplug everything, shut everything down, you usually can do it yourself by the instructions. It's pretty simple to replace the thermocouple. So.
Or you can just FaceTime Marianne.
Huh?
I said, or you could just FaceTime Mary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my-
Travel expenses, Dave. Travel.
What would be the reason for some colors not coming out as vibrant as other colors? Like if I could have, and if they were painted the same amount of coats, and I could have the same color on top and the same color on the bottom, and one may appear more vibrant than the other. Is there a reason for that?
Well, it could be coverage. You know, I mean, if you painted them exactly like how many coats or whatever, could be coverage. If it's clear glazed, it should kind of be the same unless you had different coverage. That's the other thing about that I've noticed. I went into a studio one time. We went visiting a studio, and they had a bunch of pieces on their walls, and all their pieces looked dull. None of them looked glossy and shiny. They all looked dull. And what I found out in this visit was they put it on too heavy. They put the clear glaze was all very, very thick. So the thicker the clear glaze, the duller the color is going to look. So it doesn't become more glossy because you have more clear glaze. It actually dulls it up. So you don't want your clear glaze to be too thick. And this is how their clear glaze was. It was very thick. And they didn't use our colors either, our underglaze line, like the Fun Stroke. So I know that might have made a difference too, but I definitely know it wasn't very vibrant. But the other thing is that would explain why one area might be thick and one thick with clear glaze, which would make it duller than the top area where maybe the clear glaze was a little thinner or something, you know?
Okay.
It's the only thing I could think of.
If you're talking about vibrancy, Sutton, a lot of times, and not just our color, but all manufacturers' colors need to get to the right time and temperature to achieve their best vibrancy.
Right.
So if, say, the top area of your kiln is looking maybe not quite as vibrant, that could be a sign that that's not reaching temperature.
Okay.
So that could be one thing to look at. The other thing is after your kiln is fired, you can look at the LED screen and it will tell you how many hours it fired for.
Yes.
We usually like to see it like, I don't know what you've been getting, Marianne, but usually like at least 7.5 hours. You know, you want to try to get that temperature that much. So if your kiln starts to malfunction, either a coil is out or the thermocouple isn't reading right, that could be a sign because the colors like to reach that 1828 Fahrenheit for about 7.5 hours.
Okay.
So that could be something to look at.
Yeah, the other thing is if you take the like when you're firing, like Dave was saying, you know, the time and temperature thing, because I had a kiln, if the firing goes for like 15 hours, like it goes a real long time, but yet when you open the kiln, nothing looks completely like it's supposed to be fired, but it went a long time. That's an indication of thermocouple. Look at that first, because I know that I've had that issue, and that's what it ended up being, the thermocouple. So there's different things you'll get to know.
It's only happened a couple of times back during Christmas when it was super busy. So I'm just assuming the glaze was too thick, or I haven't had any. I have an electric kiln, and I haven't had any.
The other thing that can happen is if you put a piece near one of the peepholes and you don't have that peephole closed, you can get like a little circle that can look like a white dot almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't get fired there. So
Okay.
also just make sure it's far enough from the peepholes to not get air in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And during Christmas, the tendency is because you're so busy and you're trying to get stuff. If you overpack the kiln, it doesn't get enough oxygen throughout the kiln. So you really want to try and always vent. But sometimes that happens too.
Okay.
And we're about 10 minutes over for Marianne kiln questions, so we can switch over to Susan. But if anybody has a kiln question or anything for Marianne that you didn't get answered, type it in the comments, and afterwards we'll go back to that.
Yeah, because my battery's just, I keep getting this, you see me go out every once in a while, it says your battery is low, and I'm looking around like, am I near a plug?
You gotta plug in, Marianne. We're gonna switch
You
over.
might have to get out of that comfy chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Either that or you'll be on my phone next.
Okay.
Well, we
so
certainly had a couple questions on pricing. We could start
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this industry, I'm going to go back in history a little bit. It started out where people had a studio fee plus a base cost of the bisque. So that's called, price plus studio fee, or you have what's called all inclusive. Many years ago, so if the industry started back in what, Dave, about 2000?
Well,
Maybe.
1993 was maybe like the first Color Me Mine,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah.
God.
Remember,
Ooh.
Petroglyph was around then, 1993. There's that
That's-
argument as to who started first, but I'd say
That's true.
1993.
So, the whole industry started with the studio fee. A lot of the studios were very small, and their goal was people could only stay for an hour because they didn't have enough seats, so they would have to turn people in order to make a profit. So the industry started with, you'd have a markup of 4 to 6 times the cost of the bisque. And then the studio fee was, kids are typically at $6 and adults were at $8. Now, if you're in a rural area with not a high population, your multiplier on the bisque should be on the lower side, about $4. Your rent is probably going to be lower, your payroll is going to be lower, so you don't quite need as much, and you might not be able to get the higher markup. For people who are in the bigger cities, like I think Anya, she I don't know if she's on this anymore. She's north of Atlanta. She would be at the 6 times if she chose a studio fee. Now, the problem with that is people in the industry really didn't have great signage. And so what would happen is people would go in, they'd select their piece of bisque, they'd go sit down, and if the payment process wasn't explained to them, just imagine this. So take, say this is a mug, and this costs you $2. And say they used a 4 times multiplier, so that's an $8 charge. And then you're an adult, so you add another 8, it should be $16. Well, what was happening in the industry is people would go pick their bisque, go sit at the table and say, I'm painting something for $8 and I've got, 3 other people with me, so I'm thinking my bill's going to be X. They go to check out and they had that studio fee added on at the end, and people were very shocked, and it got frustrating. So then as the industry grew and people tried to be different than their competition, people said, I'm going to make this simpler, and I'm going to say, you go and you want to paint this mug, I'm going to just charge you a flat fee, and I'm going to charge you, it's going to be $16. So it depends on how you want to market your business. So you have the studio fee, which again, typically is a 4 to 6 times markup on the cost of the bisque, with a studio fee, which is explained as you're using my stencils, my silk screens, my sponges, you get, whatever, the clear glazing. That's kind of how they would explain that cost, and you would add that on. The all-inclusive is just a lot cleaner and simpler. And now we just had a survey from CCSA, which is, don't let me forget about talking about them because they're wonderful. They just did a survey and it said that 80% of the industry is all-inclusive now. So all-inclusive, though, the markup is really 6 to 8 times. In major cities, it's actually 10 times.
And I think the one caveat for that is the larger the piece you have, the more challenging, obviously, that is to do that markup. If you had a huge platter, you're not going to mark that up 6 to 8 times. You just won't be able to get that amount for it. But within reason, you have to use your judgment and so forth.
I was trying to see if I had a big piece here. So,
yeah.
You don't price. We have these items called biggie banks, which are about 10 inches tall, and they're really cute banks. that costs $10 or, you know, $10.50. The markup on that is not 8 times, it's about 5 times. You try and get $50 for that because you're making $40 on that piece. You know, if you're charging 50 and it costs you 10, it's 40. You don't need to, you know, mark it up 8 times and make $70 on that. And there are some items that are, you're going to say, gosh, I just don't know how to price it. Just give us a call. And a lot of times, especially when you're new, if something is flying off the shelf or like a whole category, like say your party animals, the party animals typically right now are priced at $18. You know, if you're pricing them at 15 because you're in a rural area, but they're flying, I'd raise it to $15.50 or $16. Try and get a little bit more money for them. So you can play around with your pricing as well.
The other thing, Susan, is you mentioned CCSA earlier. It's a closed group. So like a lot of times studios will ask, they'll hold up a piece on, well, not hold it up, but they'll post a picture of a piece on CCSA and ask people, other studios, what they're charging for it. We also have a group too. It's called Gare Dish on Facebook, which is also a closed group. So if you join that, that's another place that you can ask other studios questions where customers won't see it.
Does that help? A lot of you guys had questions on pricing, and it's pretty straightforward in this industry, but can I answer any questions on it?
Like the Christmas trees.
I think one thing that I do, sorry, I just want to interject one thing that, you know, we've been trying to be helpful to studios for a large number of years. And I would say that pricing is one where fear really comes into play with a lot of studios. They'll often say to us, oh, I could never charge that in my area. And so I think that one thing you might want to do, we'll get into CCSA. That's a really great group where you can network with people around the country that aren't necessarily your competitor that's right near you. And you can talk about these things. And we would highly recommend that because we see so often, Susan and I do an awful lot of travel around the US and around the world visiting studios. And what, you know, one of the number one things we talk about is, wow, they're pricing their products so low. They don't realize they could get an extra $1 to $2, and that would be so helpful to their profits. And so just be cognizant of that. You know, now that doesn't mean that somebody that's in a nonprofit, you know, area can just go crazy with pricing. You got to watch it, but you're in this to you know, make some money, and so just be cognizant. Don't be too afraid to price your product. Create a really good atmosphere, a place that people are going to want to go to, and they will pay, you know, a good amount of money to be entertained. So.
I had people coming in looking at my prices and saying, your pottery prices are great. They're so good. So-and-so's were right here. And so that's why I was getting the feeling I was pricing things too low because everybody, and I have such loyal customers, they come back regardless of what the price will be. But then the new ones that come in, they're like, oh my gosh, this was so-and-so over here. And, you know, I'm not trying to, I just didn't know what if there was a rule of thumb for pricing. I felt in my gut it was too low when everybody was saying the same thing.
So what are you pricing it at?
I would times 3.5% of what I paid.
Okay. So, and I think I saw a question from Ryan too on what is all-inclusive studio fee. So 3.5% I don't care what area of the country you're in, it's not covering your costs.
Okay.
It's really tough. So I know it's really tough for the people in the rural areas because you'll get, oh, I can't afford this. But when you're holding up a cute artistic piece that they're going to keep, they can keep forever. I mean, what can you do that you can retain for $15? I mean, it's really, you can't go to the movies. You can't really go out to eat anymore for that cheap. I mean, there's really not that much that you can do for less than $16, $15. So just like I want to kind of put it in perspective, and I'm going to try and do this I was trying to write something so I could make sure I made sense. But let's just say you're trying to figure out, do I want to do studio fee, plus the base cost, which Ryan, that's what you were talking about. That's not all inclusive. That's a whole different pricing. So if you're doing it with studio fee, that markup is a 4 to 6 times plus the studio fee. So let's just to keep math simple in my head as I'm talking to this. Say you're doing studio fee and you're doing a 4 times markup, and take a $2 item, right, for a child, and it's for a birthday party. So that's like our party animals. They're around $2. So 2 times 4 is $8, right? And the studio fee for a child is $6. So that's $14 is what you would get paid for that, correct? I know from asking the past 3 years what studios on average are getting for a party animal all-inclusive, and it's $18. That means by doing the studio fee method, you're losing $4 per party animal. I'll tell you, you're selling at least 100 party animals a month. That means you've just lost $400 of net income. That is your money. That is a phone bill, your electric bill. It's a third of your rent because you had prices too low. So, when businesses, you're doing this to at least break even. But most of you guys are doing this to make a profit. So just really don't be nervous about pricing it appropriately.
Okay,
And
thank you.
one other thing I want to say about pricing too is one of the biggest revenue generators typically for the studios is birthday parties. And so you got to think about your packages for birthday parties as well. And so scout the areas, the locales in your area and what they're charging for birthday parties. And a lot of studios, when we tell them to do that, they're shocked at what some of the prices are for birthday parties. So don't underprice your birthday parties either.
Okay.
They're hard to say during COVID, right? But I mean, when
Right.
COVID
Yeah.
is done, some of you have started just right before COVID, but the good news about that is we had a lot of people that started right during the Great Recession in 2008, and they're still in the industry. So there's something to be said for that. So hang tough.
Yeah, it is going to be. Dave and Jamie and I and Marion, we talk about this a lot. This industry is going to be a fantastic industry once COVID ends, because people are going to want this form of entertainment that brings memories. We're going to do very well. You just have to market
dying to get
yourself.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are dying to get out. They just
Yeah.
want to be with people and create more experiences. And there's a lot to be said for ceramic art entertainment.
One of my biggest sellers is I do it once a month, but I'll have the parents bring their kids in and we do like the hand impressions, and I'll put them in the clay, and they see the wall of all the different glazes, and they get to pick what glaze they want me to paint their child's hand in, and then their little nameplate, and then I put it on a plaque, and I'm gonna show you. I got it.
I love it.
I love her chair.
Oh, I'm in my dining room.
I love that chair.
So like we do them on these.
That's so cute.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh, I
Wow.
love it.
And then we do the feet and 2 hands, but this is probably my biggest seller. And this.
Now,
and
what do you
birthday-
charge for that? What do you charge for that, Sutton?
This one is 45, and
Okay.
then the 2 hands are 80.
Okay, that's
So,
pretty good. That's okay. Good.
but at
It
my
doesn't sound
studios,
too low or too high to me. Yeah.
no, that's what my biggest seller is. But my studio, it's paint with me, so I do canvas art. I do a lot of custom orders.
Yeah.
We have a lot of wood in my house because my husband hand cuts everything, like all the door hangers and stuff. So
Nice.
I'm really not out anything for the wood because it's scrap I have laying around anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've
this
seen more people doing pets too. Have you done any pets with the
I-
dog?
not in my studio. I've done it at my house. I have a golden doodle, but
Yeah.
they have to shave the hand before to get like a really good impression, and I haven't did that in the studio yet. Kind of messy.
Good for you. Those are nice.
They're
beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, for the size on that plate, Sutton, how big is it? What is your dimensions on your
Ugh.
1 hand and your 2 hands?
don't have like number dimensions. What I do is I get my clay, and everyone has to RSVP. So I'll already have my clay balls rolled out, and then I'll just put them in Saran Wrap. And I know whenever they get there, I'll just have the clay out and I just by their hand. And then my wood pieces, I'll just, whenever the clay or the bisque is out of the kiln, I'll put it on the scrap wood and just mark where it needs to be cut. I'm sure there's an easier way to do it, but like I said, I'm just starting out and I'm learning. So
that's very cute.
Awesome.
And you epoxy that on, correct? How do you glue the clay
Liquid
to
nails.
the wood?
Liquid nails. Yes. It holds it on there. I haven't had one fall off, or everybody that comes in loves them. There's been no complaints on them, and I only do it once a month because it is so messy and I need to just keep it organized, and I do so many other things in the studio. So we do it once a month, and both my days just fill up with them. That's a really good seller.
That's awesome.
I might have interrupted somebody before. They wanted to get into Christmas tree pricing, I think.
Yes.
Yep. So Susan, do you have off the top of your head what people are charging for like various trees and stuff?
Ooh. I don't. God, the 5064, which is our 12-inch, I want to say it's like $99. And I want to say our large one, the 5145, which is I think 17 to 18 inches, that goes for up to $120. Now, one of the most important things is the Christmas tree rage, I think, is still going to be going on for a few more years.
Yeah.
Hosting a Christmas in July is critical to get it in people's mind. So you don't necessarily sell that many in July, but what you're doing is you're promoting that. You're also going to be doing it September through. You want to stop probably the week before Thanksgiving, because you don't want your kilns to be taken up by Christmas tree space. You're going to have tons of platters coming in the volume. It's tough if you only have 1 to 2 kilns. It's going to be hard to keep up. And the goal between Thanksgiving and Christmas is to just make sure you get as much volume done, and you don't want trees to take up that space. So you want to try and give incentives for people to do events, parties, and all their painting of the trees up until, I'd say the middle of November. And I can't remember the small one. The small one, that might be about $50. Oh, and here's the other thing, is that the earlier they paint them, like if you can get them painted in September and October, which are 2 slow months for you, give them a cut. So say the 5064 is typically what I say, $75, $99, somewhere in there.
99,
give them
yeah.
give them a $10 discount if they paint it early, and say, the price goes up if you don't paint it by X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do really good on those cactuses because we're in Arizona, so everybody wants to
yeah.
Adorable.
And for Christmas trees, doing it for Halloween is definitely the rage. So you can have Christmas and Halloween going. We do sell the orange and purple lights now, so you could do it in like a funky black or purple mixture. You could do a rainbow black and purple with orange. Oh, there's some really funky ones you can do.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of Halloween, but also Easter and Valentine's too.
Yes.
Yep.
Did that help answer the pricing on that?
Yes, thank you.
Let me kind of go to CCSA too, because that they, like Jamie had said, they have a closed group and we have our own closed group on Facebook. Those are great questions that a lot of people ask on. So CCSA is the organization for the industry, and it stands for Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association. And there's a membership fee, but we have a show once a year where I think right now we have 550 members, and all the suppliers go to the show, and it's just a great way to network, and and get a, find what's working for people, especially during COVID. We were having once a week check-ins with all the studios just to see what was working for people. That's how people understood that they had to get their shopping online up. And so we were having Zoom meetings on, okay, exactly how did you get your online ordering system going? Like, who did you use? How did you price it? How did you do your color selection? I mean, it was a great way to survive COVID.
And I think one of the nice things too is it's almost like this group here. I'm looking at a bunch of owners who are in different types of, you got everything from Coloring Mind to you got a military type outfit. You've got a stain, you got a glass turning into. And that's what CCSA is good at too. You've got all different types of studios, all walks of life, all areas of the country. So you could network with people that might have the same issues that you're having. And you can hear it instead of from a supplier, you can hear it from somebody who owns a business like you.
Yeah,
Unvarnished.
especially during COVID, I noticed that because certain areas, like everybody's area was different. Like somebody was closed completely and doing to go only, and then other studios were open at 25% capacity. And then some people were completely shut down. Well, the ones that experienced whatever that situation was first was able to help those other people through it when they had to walk through those doors. So they would be like, oh, well, that didn't really work for us, but here's what did. And they were able to offer that advice because they've already experienced it.
Yep.
Somebody had asked, is there a shelf life to clear glaze? That's a little tricky in the sense that, I don't know if there's really a shelf life per se, but there are things that can go wrong the longer it sits around. The biggest issue is if it stays stagnant. There's something called oolites that can grow. That is a calcium growth, which it's like little crystal calcifications, and they can multiply. So if you, order, say, too much glaze on your initial order, which, we've seen this, and say you don't use that glaze for many months up to a year, and you keep it in a hot area because most of the time the glaze is in the kiln room, it can exasperate, and that's not the right word, but it can aid in growth of oolites.
Yeah. The other thing that can happen to a clear glaze is over time, most clear glazes, you're adding some water to it. And over time, the ratio of water to solids can change. And what can happen is you start to see not a shiny surface, but a rough surface. So if you're seeing a rough surface, it usually means that the solids to water ratio is off. And a lot of times there's nothing you can do but order more clear glaze because it's been too thinned down. Like putting in just simply new clear glaze and adding it to that batch isn't going to necessarily bring it back to life.
What Jeff has actually found on that, Dave, on, there are a few people during COVID that it's happened to. He has them siphon off some of the liquid.
Oh yeah, skim off the liquid.
Skim off some liquid, then add a fresh gallon to bucket, and that actually has worked. He's been surprised, but it's held the suspension with that.
I mean, it's good practice not to, you fill your clear glaze, and some people, say they started now, next year they still have some of the same clear glaze in there that they started with. In other words, they just keep refilling. So if they've got like this much clear glaze in there, they don't have enough, so they buy more and they pour it on top of that, and after a while, that's what happens. It goes out of suspension, like Dave was saying. So I think my suggestion would be every 3 to 6 months at least, completely clean out your clear glaze. Like, maybe every 3, depending on how much progress, how much you're doing. But if you clean it out, meaning, we sell the strainers. What are they called? Is that what it's called?
Oh gosh.
The strainer. It sits right on top of a bucket. It's a screen that you can pour the clear glaze through. So anything that's in the clear glaze, like glass particles, oolites, anything, it just kind of stays, it gets drained out, you know. So you can strain your clear glaze and then clean out your buckets, start fresh, and instead of wasting that stuff that you just cleaned out, get another smaller bucket. Maybe use it for kids' pieces or something. You don't have to waste it if it's still good clear glaze, but it's still good to really start fresh once in a while instead of keep using old clear glaze. You know, you can only do it for so long, and then you should clean it, you know. So
we have about 20 minutes left. So if you got those questions, ask them now. Ask them now, or type them in and I'll read them.
So for birthday parties, can we hit on that one more time? Because I know David had said something about those, and I actually wrote that down on my little list of things I wanted to talk about. How do you price your birthday parties? So we are government, so I have $10 and under items that I price. 12 and under and 15 and under is what they get to choose from, and then I do a ratio off of that for birthday parties. But how many extra dollars would you recommend adding on top of in order to host the birthday party? Is there like a normal $3 extra per kid, $1 extra per kid, or?
It depends on how many employees you have working the party, quite honestly, because you're in a different bucket because you're just trying to break even.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, it's really just making sure you're covering the staff who's doing it. So if you have one person and it's an hour party and you're paying them $10 an hour, maybe mark it up to 15 because there's going to be other materials that are used or something. But I wouldn't, for you, I would not add too much. Your job is to create a service for the military families and give them some light and enjoyment. Now for the studios for a party package, we're seeing a trend in, I wish I was better versed on this, but the trend seems to be instead of doing by piece, it's like a party package where they give like a $200 package, a $300 package, and a $400 package because they're forcing the parents to have X amount of kids. And I don't understand enough about that, but that seems to be the trend, not only for pottery studios, but for everything from, snippets to amusement places to whatever. It's a whole dollar value package that they're giving. And they'll base it like on 8 to 12 kids is X amount, 12 to 15 kids is X amount, and 15 to 25 is whatever. And they kind of group it that way. And, they might put food in there or whatever.
Yeah, I've seen some include a cake or pizza, things like that as part
invitations.
Yeah.
Like doing the invitations in thank yous is a great service if you want to get into that.
I have a question from Julie, and she said, we get a lot of donated supplies. We have older paints. We get a lot of donated supplies. We have older paints and bisque. Is there any prep work needed to use it?
I'm the wall of real estate. So I know that people have very small stores and you've got, 1 to 3,000 square feet. And my concern when people get a lot of donations is it starts ending up piling up and it's not used. So my first caution is to be cautious on what you're accepting. It's not bad to say, thank you so much for considering me, but I don't need that at this time. My biggest concern is with paints, especially paints that are dry or partly opened and used. You don't know what you're getting. You just don't know what you're inheriting, and I just wouldn't do that. When it comes to bisque, just be selective. If anyone says, oh, my grandmother passed away and her estate is selling all of her, finish it, greenware, bisque, molds, I wouldn't do it because you're getting 80% of things you can't use and you're getting 20% of things that you could. I would just be cautious because more times than not, it's stuff that's really not going to move that well. So if you can cherry pick, I definitely like that. I think there's a lot of value to on Bisque adding some unique pieces that you can't get from the main suppliers that have been poured. I think that has value, but you know, buying 1,000 pieces of Bisque that you don't have the choice to pick through, you're gonna have 800 pieces that aren't gonna move, and are gonna, more importantly, it's gonna take your shelf space, your wall of real estate on things that can turn and make you money. And you don't want, I call it hostage takers. You don't want a Bisque piece to take hostage on your wall of real estate. I want things that are gonna at least turn 4 to 6 times in your studio.
The other thing, keep in mind that if you do have Bisque that's older, or even the Bisque Bisque or whatever, it's been sitting there for a long time, dust can be a problem. I know some studios are more dusty than others. So if you wanted to get something off, like the dust, if it was really dirty or something, and you said, oh, nobody's going to buy this because it just looks horrible, put it in the kiln. Just run it through the kiln and it will fire all the dust off. Don't put glaze on it, and just put it in there. It'll fire. You can fire it at the 06 temperature. You don't have to fire it separately even. Just fire all the dust off or the dirt. If it's dirty from dirty fingerprints or anything, it'll fire it all off, and it'd be a nice clean piece of Bisque you can start with,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, if you do use acrylics in your studio, and all of a sudden you see, you're not watching somebody, they're putting acrylics on and then they're putting glaze on top of it. So all of a sudden you'll fire something, you'll say, what the heck happened? Because all of a sudden there's a big space of Bisque and it doesn't look right, and it looks like your glaze didn't work. It might be because they used the acrylics, because acrylics will fire off. So it's trying to fire out even if it's glazed. If it's not glazed and somebody just started to paint something with acrylics, just put it in the kiln. If you caught it, you can put it in the kiln, and the acrylic should fire off of it anyway. It should fire out. If you put something in that they painted and you didn't dip it and you fired it, it'll come back out white because it usually will fire off. So
it's a good pro tip.
Yeah. And it won't blow up your kiln.
And I think, my only comment, because what Marianne and Susan said was, I would ditto, is it depends on the source of who donated it too. We've seen a lot of studios say, oh, I've got this donated piece, and it ended up being stoneware, or the color was like not 06 glaze and they didn't know it. So trust the source. It depends where you're getting the stuff from. If there was another paint your own pottery studio that closed and you were getting stuff from them, I'd trust that more than just somebody that comes into your shop and says, I've got some things for you, because you just don't know. So I would just say trust your source, and that could be helpful.
Yeah.
And don't get sucked into buying molds.
Yeah, don't.
Because I've been in ceramics for longer than I've been in gear. And before I went to gear, I used to pour my own molds and all that stuff, because I used to have ceramic shop in my basement. And it's a lot of work. And people say, well, it's cheaper. I can pour all these pieces and I don't have, believe me, by the time you've done all that work, you haven't saved yourself any money. And nowadays people try to sell molds, and it's like, you couldn't pay me to take, like, they should be giving them to you for free, because you can't really sell molds anymore. I mean, it's like, you can't. They used to be worth a lot of money. Now it's like, I'll pay you to take these molds off my hands, because they take up a lot of room. They collect dust. They're big and clunky. I mean, it's really just so not what you want to be doing, and it doesn't really save you any money. So that's just my take on it, because I used to do it.
Yeah, the area you want to focus on is, how do I get more people into my studio, marketing or doing outreach, and figuring out how am I can I partner with an area restaurant to do some sort of a, painting event at their place. So I think try to put your investment in things that are going to make you money and not force you to make product. A lot of studios are doing some great outreach now, just all sorts of creative ways to do it. Again, I think that's another reason to join CCSA. You'll learn what are some studios doing in their area that's successful that I could tap into.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question on silk screens and things like that. For our studio, we sort of hold those, and then we do special events with them. Now, I know at some of the Color Me Minds, they just have them out all the time. How often do you have to buy new ones when you have them out all the time?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I don't know how many uses a silk screen gets. I think if you clean it well and dry it well, I don't see them not lasting for, I think you have a lot of uses.
Yeah, they can be used a long time. If you're just using them with glazes. Now, you don't want to, if you use them with acrylics, you better clean it out instantly. But if you're just using them with glazes, they'll last a long time, but you do got to clean them out and, dry them and stuff like that. And make sure the people know how to use them, because they can really wreck it if they don't know how to use them. So
Yeah.
if they're just out there, you want to make sure they just know what they're doing, because the paint does have to be mixed with a medium. The glaze mixed with a medium to make it thick enough to just kind of do the silk screen. So.
Good questions.
Yeah, any other questions?
Can we touch base on studio hours?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Remind me again, Sherry, of your area.
Troy, Missouri. It's a smaller town. It's outside of St. Louis.
And are you in a strip mall?
A small one, yes.
So the first thing I would do is look at their hours, because you're going to be, probably paired with what they're doing as well. I know a lot of studios, especially during COVID and trying to minimize payroll, they were closing. Most were doing Monday and Tuesday, and they were having their phone forwarded so that they could answer it, because some studios were saying that Mondays for phone questions was actually busy, and they didn't want to miss that opportunity to get people in the other days. People seem to be doing Wednesday is the least amount of hours. Thursday through Saturday are higher number of hours. I've seen, I think the most common is like 11 to 7 or 11 to 8 if you could. And maybe Saturday would even be 11 to 9 if people asked. Or what you could do is you could reduce it and say it's 11 to 7, but you could say parties of 6 and more book for appointment up until, and you can give your hours, like say 7 to 10, so that you're not missing those private parties where people might join. And people have had very good success with that, because, especially women, if they're comfortable with their friends, for whatever reason, whether they, somebody's already been vaccinated or, whatever, they'll book that.
Mhm.
And that makes it worth your while. You have 6 people, especially adults, painting. I mean, you're in for, several $100s for that 2 hours.
Sherry, was your question about hours during COVID right now, or was it once COVID is more behind us?
No, COVID now. And naturally January, now we're into February, is a slower time, but I try to compare to other studios, and some of them, they're closing at 5, they're not opening, they're running like 11 to 5, but I'm retired. I live 5 minutes from the studio, and so I have a few people that like to come in early, and I'm a morning person anyway, but there's a lot of time that I'm here, all day, and maybe not too many people come in. So I want to be here if people are willing to come in. It's just that, it's just a rough time right now.
Yeah.
But I typically, I'm closed on Mondays, and then I'm usually here till, I usually open at 10, and I've been open till 6. If nobody comes in by 5, sometimes I'll close early, because it's really too late to get started painting if I close at 6. But I just wondered how other studios ran their hours.
I think a big thing too is to keep it consistent, whatever you decide on. Because there's one thing, like people don't like uncertainty. So if they're not sure if you're open or if they, so I think it's good to keep it consistent, whatever you decide on.
And there's nothing wrong. I mean, if you're in the position where you're in this just to support the community and it's more like, I'll call it fun family income, where you don't need it to survive. I've talked to several studios that said for COVID, for the next 3 to 4 months, I'm going to just be appointment only. So it depends on why you have your studio. Is it a significant part of the family income or not? Because you're retired and you might just want to say, for the next 4 months, I'll come in whenever I have people who want to come in, but I'm just going to take this time for myself, for my mental health.
We opened in February and our initial hours were 10 to 6, Monday through Saturday. And then when COVID hit, no one came in and we had to shut down. And so I made it to where we're only open Wednesday through Saturday, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're open 4 in the afternoon to 9 at night. And that's when when we have the most people come in, just because kids are out of school and the parents will bring them in to do something. But then also if it's a group of 7 or more, I tell them that it's open as long as you book in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance, for a girls' night, Bible study, party, whatever you want to do. It could be any night of the week, even if we're closed. And so I do get a lot of that. And then on Saturdays, we're open all day from 10 to 9 or 10 to 8. But that's going good.
Good.
Did anyone have an inventory question? I thought somebody mentioned that. No? Okay. I can't hear you though. You have to unmute yourself. Oh, almost. There you go.
Okay. I was just curious, name some of the systems and some, or maybe some of the studio owners can tell me inventory systems that they use that they found very user friendly, or because on the video.
Square, Vend, QuickBooks. That was the oldie but goodie. Those are the
Sutton,
3.
what did you?
Square. Square.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, those would be the top 3.
Is there a charge with that, Sutton?
I don't think so. I can't remember if there was one. I don't think so. I know there's not one you pay monthly or anything. And when we signed up, we got a little card reader that you could plug in your phone or whatever. But now we have the POS system where you just hook the laptop up to it. And, but it records our inventory. And I use QuickBooks too, just because, like I said, I do more than just ceramics. But I use QuickBooks and Square. But Square is what I use mostly to keep the inventory for the pottery and the bisque.
Square charges a percentage.
Oh, yes, it does. You're right.
Who pay by credit card or debit card.
It's like a percentage.
Yeah.
You're right. I was thinking, hang on, I can tell you what it is.
And then for gift cards, you have to use their gift cards.
Yes.
And they charge, so that's how they
make their money.
Yes.
Well, we actually in the stained glass studio use the Square system, but I was specifically referring to, did they have an additional charge for inventory management?
No, it's included.
Yeah, most of them are included.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you get to that point, I know that we can send you an Excel spreadsheet of all of our items, so you don't have to enter stuff. So you could just drop it in. It saves a tremendous amount of time. So everything from the item number goes in to the description, to the number of pieces per case, and your price.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, cool.
So the one thing I suggest, and I kind of go through in my video, is to figure out how to put subcategories into your inventory, because like I even think in the last 25 years how our inventory has changed. For example, I don't even know if we had a 5,000 category, and now that's one of our largest ones, rivaled by the kids, which is the 7,000s. So there's always going to be ebbs and flows of whether plates do well, platters, bowls, banks, boxes, and it's really important for you to follow that so that you know what to buy into and what to slow down on.
Right.
And does anybody have any last questions? We're coming up on 2 hours. It's a long time.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. For
Doesn't
hanging
seem
in
like
with
we've
this.
been on that long, but
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, Marianne.
time for my nap.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Getting old.
All right, we have one more question.
Sure.
On the video, you were Susan. You mentioned slides like a PowerPoint. And do we get those, or you send those out after this, or?
Yes, we are. Jamie and I were talking about that right before, and she goes, "What were you referring to?" I was like, "I was referring to my PowerPoint, which it's this." It's a lot of slides. So when you read it, I am an inventory geek. I don't know why. I could talk your ear off on it. So once you get it, please call me, because I would love to help you.
Okay.
Awesome.
But you're going to email that to us?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And can you email that Excel spreadsheet also?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect.
I'd like that too.
Why don't we'll include that
Okay.
with everything.
Yeah.
Good.
I think there was like 4 attachments we were talking about during this whole thing.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep. Anybody else?
Going once.
This is great. I really appreciate it.
Well, good. We never and we always hope that we're helping you guys. And, as you can tell by all of you on this call, you're all at very different points and experiences. So, it's always hard to make sure that we cover everyone's questions, but I like the Zooms. I think it's
definitely
cool.
different than it used to be, huh?
I know. It's fun. We love having you guys, outside of COVID. We do have the trainings here, and the benefit is you get to see and meet the employees behind everything we create. And, from our sculptor, Robert, to Jeff, who is our ceramic engineer for the paint, to Jerry, who manages the bisque, and just seeing all the inventory. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But thank you guys all for joining us and hanging in there for the 2 hours, and we hope you got a lot out of it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm also going to
Just remember,
this is recorded, so I'm going to send this out as a recording too, if you want to go back and look at anything. And Susan, I'll send it out to other people too that weren't able to make it onto the Zoom.
yeah. And if you have any questions, please call us directly, because we'd love to help you one-on-one as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you all.
Yeah, nice meeting you guys.
See you later, guys.
Thank you for everything.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Be safe, everyone.
Y'all too.
I'm going to stop recording. Marianne.
Still there?
I'm still there.